Do you ever feel like you spend all day doing homework? All these important moments of life pass by while we grind away. But have you ever once stopped to think if homework is even worth your time? Sure, it's part of your grade, but is it the best way to learn? I had to get to the bottom of this. Homework has been a controversial topic for a long time. Some rookies love it, some rookies think it's a complete waste of time. What's even funnier, the man who invented homework, Roberto Neveles, might not even exist. Yeah, there's controversy layered in controversy. This is like tiramisu territory now. Supposedly, homework was a type of punishment for students that somehow made it mainstream in the schools. My big issue with homework has always been the time investment. Like in high school, we're in school from 7 to 3, which is basically an 8-hour workday. And then we get home, exhausted, of course, and have to do homework due tomorrow? Think about it from a job perspective. Like, your boss would never get away with making you work off the clock and then cut your paycheck if you didn't do it. How are we supposed to have time for, I don't know, extracurriculars? Or what if we have part-time jobs or chores or need to steamroll some noobs on Valorant? In college, I eventually came to the conclusion that homework was not only useless, it was actually dangerous. And two reasons in particular really changed my entire perspective about learning. The first is that homework makes it really difficult for students to differentiate between what's important and what's urgent. When we attach a deadline to something, it awakens this primal psychological fear response in our brains. Like, oh crap, this homework assignment is due tomorrow? If I don't finish it right now and turn it in, I'm gonna lose points. Urgency causes fear, which makes us feel like every decision we make is black and white, life or death. Marketers use this tactic in sales all the time. Scarcity falsely confers value.
Call now. Call now and you can get my best-selling dump cake cookbook.
The funny thing is, and this is just from my personal experience, the homework portion of my grade was always really small, like 10%, if that. You know, I would get so anxious and stressed out about having to do homework, I'd forget that even if I never did it for this class, I can still pass if I do well in the midterm or the final, which are weighted much more heavily. It's the sensation of urgency that scares us into believing homework is more important. And then, because we're coming from a place of fear, we'll do whatever it takes to complete that assignment. And this leads nicely into my next point. Most homework isn't designed for effective learning. Most students put next to no thought into homework. Like, I remember in high school, there were these study groups I may or may not have been a part of that met during lunch. We get together and divide up homework and then go on a Google search rampage and control find frenzy. Or we'd have these online assignments or take-home quizzes with multiple attempts and stuff where students would just bomb the first take and pick C for everything just to take screenshots of all the answers and then do it again for full credit. Don't ask me why I know this, it's not like I did this myself or anything, but let's be honest, there's no learning happening. This is just busy work to satisfy our FOMO for homework points. It's busy work that's worth 10% of our grade, yet most students have to spend more than 10% of their free time. And just to satisfy the homework heroes, let's make up some unrealistic universe where students actually did their homework for the purpose of learning. In this hypothetical society, homework is still not optimized for learning. Most homework doesn't challenge us to think critically or hard enough to actually encode information properly. Like, going back to high school again, I remember taking this history class where the daily homework assignment was to take handwritten notes from a textbook and highlight all the key terms. We won't even touch ineffective learning strategies in this video, but peep this playlist if you're interested. All you need to know is that kind of homework is a complete waste of time. So I was pretty fired up at this point and ready to start the next ban homework forever movement. But then I came across some interesting research. Because there have been some pretty convincing studies to show that students who do homework outperform other students who don't. So now I began to question everything I understood about homework. Was I wrong? Was I right? Was there actually a right way to do homework that I wasn't seeing? I looked at it from every angle I could, trying to figure out and piece together what that hidden gem was about homework. So I consulted our friend Dr. Justin Sung about his thoughts about homework. He's an expert learning coach who's worked with over 10,000 students and is deeply immersed in the research.
The interesting thing with homework, right, is that it basically says that at a group level, homework seems to improve grades. So group level data, like across an entire school population, says that it's helpful. However, on an individual basis, there's no effect, or it's actually a negative impact. How can you have a population level result, but at an individual level, you're not actually seeing that same effect? Like, someone has to be improving, right, for the group level to have improved. There's obviously more factors at play here that are not being measured.
I realized I was looking at everything completely wrong. In fact, the entire concept about homework is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if we assign less or more. The most important thing that students need to succeed is to develop self-study and self-discipline skills. That's it. Because in a classroom setting, homework can never be optimized. Homework isn't personalized, but learning is.
For students that are really struggling, essentially failing, not doing any self-study at all, homework is almost the only form of self-study that they're doing. And so for them, it's going to help.
Let's think about this for a second. Imagine you're a student who struggles in physics class. You just happen to pick it up a little bit slower, but your arch nemesis destroys physics. It doesn't make any sense then that both of you are assigned the same homework if you're at different levels of mastery, right? Like I wouldn't practice jazz piano solos if I didn't even know what a chord was. We all learn at different speeds, so homework given for one type of student is not going to be useful for everyone. It's not personalized. In medical school, we were taught to treat the patient, not the disease. That's why we don't prescribe the same treatment for everyone with the condition. We have to assess their risk factors, their symptoms, their history, all of these things before deciding the right approach to help them improve. So instead, forget about homework. The best thing we can do is actually develop a self-study system. I think that was the missing link to the research about why homework improved the scores for some students, but not all of them. Homework gives students without a study system a generalized solution. So it was a good start. But if we take the time to develop good study habits in a self-study system, homework becomes useless. It actually becomes a huge waste of time because it's not a study system designed with us in mind.
When you look at students that are already in a higher level of achievement band, and I'm not even talking like top, I'm just saying like above average, there's no positive effect that's ever been demonstrated consistently from doing homework. In my own personal experience, there's really very little benefit. Once students don't have to do homework anymore, they're actually freeing up a lot of their time to engage in more effective study practices.
And the further along I got in school, the more this made sense to me because I would get less and less homework. I've never had homework in medical school. I just had to learn everything myself. And that's to help prepare us for the real world. Like once we graduate and enter the workforce, no one assigns homework anymore. If you land a tech job or an engineering job or something, the company isn't gonna be like, okay, here's some homework about how to code or how to use PowerPoint, you know? No, they're probably just gonna tell you to figure it out and do your freaking job. And if we don't have some kind of self-study or learning system in place, it could be disastrous. Now, I know that I was lucky because homework wasn't a huge part of my grades, but for you unfortunate rookies who do have to do lots of homework, here's my unsolicited take as a longtime student. Spend the bare minimum required to complete your homework. Because if homework is 10% of your grade, it should never take more than 10% of your dedicated study time. Why should it? You have other more important studying to do. And it definitely should not eat into your free time. That should be 100% devoted for your hobbies, your relationships, maybe some anime, self-discovery, and definitely maximum chillin'. So I guess in the end, homework does serve the purpose of providing some kind of structure or punishment for students who don't have any game plan about learning. But you know, here at Cajun Koi Academy, our philosophy is to empower students to think more deeply about learning to live more intentionally. But now that you know my take on homework and how valuable I think self-studying is, what we need to do next is build that system. And luckily, we have that covered for you right here.